You're
Here's the gavel. The gavel, lady. Okay. Let me sign this. This is Dr. Judy's contract. Oh. Okay. Get that all taken care of.
Do they want me to sign it?
Yeah, yeah. Ready.
Are you gonna sign?
I gotta get the other ones. I guess they all have to sign it, so.
Oh, okay. I don't know how you're gonna get Jackson.
I know, I'll just put his on electronically.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello.
Hello?
Have you been spending all your time up in Strawberry?
As much as I can,
I know, me too.
work's getting in the way.
My sister lives in Payson, but the 87's been closed for
Yeah.
a week and a half. Smoke, but
They said, was it yesterday, last night they were reporting they had 66% contained now?
kind of headed away, and then all of a sudden it changed direction, started heading towards her.
It's got a long way to go to get to Payson.
Yeah, but still,
Yeah, I know.
we don't like it coming
Well,
down.
don't forget the road opened up.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I bet it's, so you go all the way to Camp Bernie and go in?
Yeah, well, they had that, they had I-17 blocked up yesterday.
Yeah, they're doing construction.
Oh, Lord.
They were getting, you know, somebody had ready, set, go, and she was getting on ready,
Yeah,
and,
Wow.
he said, well, if you have to leave in the middle of the night, you either go up through what, Show
Show
and
Low?
go around, and then, or else go down I-17, which was closed for construction at night, so.
Oh, man.
Joel,
I
way
came
out
home.
of your way.
I came home, I was up there not this past weekend, but last weekend before, just when the fire got started,
Mhm.
and I came home Sunday morning. And they rerouted me through Roosevelt Lake, and so I came out at, Low and came around through that way, and then that afternoon, they closed the Roosevelt Lake way down. That was a long drive.
Yeah.
Wow.
If I'd have known that, I would have gone around the rim. But,
Yeah, at least gone up to Camp Bernie and
I know.
that would've been a lot closer for you.
yeah, oh man, I got to see Globe in Miami again, and Superior.
You haven't missed much, I see it all the time. Although they do have some good Mexican food there.
Yeah, I was gonna stop in Miami at El Rey, but I was in a hurry to get home.
Yeah.
We used to go to El Rey, Mexican food there, when we were playing ball in high school. It's still there.
Are you talking about the one downtown by the church?
Yeah, the old section down there.
Yeah, El Del Rey?
Yeah,
Yeah, or
it's moved since we were there in high school. It's moved to a different location, but it's still the same family.
Yeah, Stuart and I stopped on our last trip up there.
We used to go through there. We used to go up there when we played Miami and Globe. And it didn't matter whether we won the game or whether we lost the game, they'd always rock our bus. And so our bus driver had to stay outside and watch the bus, and they would always rock it.
Lord, that's brutal.
It is. Santa Cruz high school football was brutal in those years. They hated us.
Oh.
And you didn't even want to go into Nogales because all the wheels would go off your bus.
That's fun. Yeah, they have the best Shirley beef tacos. They fry those things up like Vicky's used to do. Oh
Yep,
my gosh.
Yep, fried tacos.
Yep. And then they put the cheese on the outside.
Oh,
Oh,
gosh,
man.
Really? Never heard of that.
Oh, yeah, it melted on the outside. Oh. We
No,
don't,
we're waiting on Joe.
and we have to get Jack on.
Yes,
Is Joe coming?
yes. He said he was. He emailed and said he'd be here for both. Jack's the only one not gonna be here in person, so we have to get him on the phone.
How you, Dave?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Pretty good.
When are we moving down the stairs?
Well, we've had a few delays, Nancy. Had a few delays. You know how that goes. Chuck can tell you, the construction process is always the unforeseen. So there's a
The
couple.
last 5%?
Huh?
The last 5% or the unforeseen, yeah?
It's the unforeseens.
2 weeks and
There's a
$500.
couple of things. We got our permits back, but then there's a couple of adjustments that have to be made. So we have to make some tweaks to that. And then there's some flooring removal that we have to have done just because of its age and
You have asbestos?
yeah, but it's not the free that's really dangerous. It's just, it's in the material, so you have to have it done. So,
Yeah, did you have to get it inspected?
yes, yes.
Okay.
So anyway, they're gonna remove it. I think they're gonna remove all of it, on Monday
Mm-hmm.
night. And so then we can start moving forward again.
Did you say we have asbestos?
No, it's, well,
It's just that tile that,
there's a tile that had some minor traces of it.
yeah,
And so you can't, it's not like, to make it dangerous, you have to literally rip it up, grind it up and blow it in the
yeah,
air.
it's
So you can
not
breathe.
volatile.
Yeah, but it has it in it, so you have to have it professionally removed.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. So I'm glad we found it, because that's just stuff you don't need to have around your building anyway. So,
Hasn't this building been tested for inspection?
So
yes,
I think so.
but you wouldn't have tested it. The only reason you know it, because we pulled up the carpet. And it's the tile under the carpet.
Okay.
So, but anyway, so Nancy, I think the realistic is right now is what we'll shoot for the September meeting in that.
Oh, September.
So we're hoping for August, but again, and it still could, but we're just a couple of, well, then we got delayed, for 2 weeks when we had to close everything down again too, so. But that didn't hurt us because we were waiting on permits, so. Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon, we can also have it, we can open it up in conjunction with having people in person too. That would be really nice. That'd be really nice to be able to open it back up.
Yeah.
Do you want me to text Joe?
On the theory.
I'll go look and see where he is,
Okay.
and then I'll come back.
Yeah, because if you look at the reopening plan, even in phase 2, we can't necessarily have a, board meeting in person because, well, we could, but if that only limits it to 50 people. And if we had more than 50 people who want to come, then it's not an open board meeting. So technically, until we get to phase 3, then we can have open board meetings again for regular, because we don't ever have more than 200 people show up at our board meetings. So,
Well, the theory of heat killing anything, not out the window.
yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, the Arizona heat doesn't feel it.
I don't know if maybe it's helping grow. I don't know. It certainly hasn't killed it, that's for sure. It hasn't killed it.
You wanna get his, text him and see what his
Yeah.
ETA is now,
And we
get
can-
back on.
I'll just give him a real quick call. If not, we can get Jack and the phone started as long as we have 3.
Hard to see.
Can you see me? Want me to sit up?
Depending if I raise my chair.
What's going on, Dave? I have like no sound.
Thumbs up.
Really?
Yeah. I can hear it when I'm dialing, but I can't hear. Jack's probably already on there and I can't hear. He probably can hear me, but I can't hear him.
That's why you did it.
Jack, are you there?
You said you have to have hello. Well.
You hung up on me, Mary.
That's never good.
And Joe didn't
What
answer.
happened? I hit the speaker button. Shouldn't have answered?
Come closer to 1199.
And Joe didn't answer, so Jack, we get Jack one to start and hopefully Joe's coming and say it's coming.
Is he on the way in the building?
Yeah, well,
Hang on. Was he driving a red truck?
yeah, it was a little black Ford.
Oh,
He didn't answer his phone.
Can you hear me? Could you hear me when you were on the line earlier? Okay, because I couldn't hear you, so, really? Huh. He said it was muffled and not clear. Okay. Did you just try to call in here? Okay. Okay, can you call that number again and I'll answer this time? I think I hung up on you, didn't I?
Mary Ann, just so I don't forget.
So
Dave
just do
has-
the,
Dave has
which number did you dial? 316-3360?
So if you want, why don't I touch base with? you?
Okay, and then
I need it, let
extension
me touch
1199.
base, and that way I kind of have, I can tell you what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
and I
Unless
can-
you and I know
Okay.
it, I'll touch base.
Okay, we can do that. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, we're doing the
Melanie
meeting right
Dave and I will get together tomorrow.
Okay. Let's do that. Okay.
But she's downstairs working on her lab.
I know. So my,
1199.
my computer's gone down again.
I'm serious.
Okay, thanks.
They're gonna have to re-image it. So I have to leave it, so I'm gonna have to take 2 full vacation days.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna have to leave it tonight and then, I'll go back on until Monday. And I have my phone, so I can email me, but.
We need you all, people text you or email you otherwise.
Did you see him out there?
Change that. I'll very change that system.
Jack goes, what were you calling me for? Are we having a meeting? I said, oh, good thing you called. Oh. Okay, you answer it this time, knucklehead.
Well, you didn't answer it the first time.
I know, that's what I mean.
You hung up on it.
Hey, there's some base fans.
Well,
lots of them, right?
No, they're coming today.
Okay.
Jennifer's not gonna update, because I know Bobby was expecting them, and I told the warehouse when they got, as soon as they get here, we need to come out right away, and Jennifer's not gonna update.
Those might be
I
them.
told the principals what I told you, we would give 5 to athletics at each school and 10 to the principal to use as a college.
Okay.
Not just to announce everybody, just because it's funny.
8,500.
Maybe I'll ask Joe.
You want me to try and call them again?
Did you not just call it?
Thought I did.
Just try calling.
Yeah, something wrong. Did you hear that?
Oops.
Ah, shoot.
Want to use mine?
I got it.
Are you charged?
Mhm. Technical difficulties.
Hey, do we need to
Put them on video call if you want.
this PowerPoint then?
Probably.
FaceTime.
Yeah.
You have yours?
Hope it doesn't interfere. Well, we're not started yet anyway. We don't have a quorum.
Really? Okay. Well, we're using the old cell phone because there's something wrong with the speaker on this thing now, so. So we're just gonna leave it. I know, and I'm upstairs, so. The other option would have been 3360, but you know what? It's a moot point because I don't think the speaker on this phone is working anyway, so.
Okay.
All righty, so we're gonna leave it you're on my cell phone, so.
I see that. You should build a district.
I get free calls.
Hey, Mary, let him know I'm emailing him the PowerPoint. Oh, I need his email address. We don't want that. Why don't you go ahead and email it to him? I don't think he wants that to be public information.
Yeah, he does, because it's on the website.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Or you can send it to his jhennis@CGUHSD.
Will we get it?
That's what he uses.
Okay.
Right, Jack?
Say that again.
Dave's gonna send you the PowerPoint for the special meeting portion, okay?
Okay, is he gonna send it to my just regular email or to the
To the
school?
school email. Do you have access to that right now?
Okay, so I gotta log on to my school.
I can send it to whatever he wants.
I can have him send it to your other one, because I do know that one.
Yeah, just send it to my home one.
Okay.
That way I don't have to remember all my codes and everything.
JKH
Hang on.
It's on
So is he gonna send it to JKH form?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it plural or singular?
Singular.
Okay.
JKH form at c2it.com.
Does that say farm? Because I can't see, okay.
So this is gone.
CGUHSD.
Hello, Mr. Lopez. Okay.
There we go.
Random address.
Okay, it's on its way.
Well, we can, if you would like, so we're getting ready to do the regular meeting at 12, and then the special meeting is at 12:30, so it's up to you. Yep. Okay, bye-bye. Joe's on his way, so he'll join us when he gets here for the other meeting.
Okay.
Ready to start then?
Yep.
Yep.
Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Mr. Wright,
Here.
Ms. Hawkins,
Here.
Mr. Hennis,
Here.
Item 2, matters for board action. Move to approve the proposed M&O budget for fiscal year 2021 as presented and call for
So,
Second.
discussion.
Mr. Wright,
yes.
Ms. Hawkins,
Yes.
and Mr. Hennis.
Yes.
Item B, personnel, move to approve the 2021 appointments of Sonia Hendricks, transition specialist, Deborah Takar, care professional, Jeanette Jetton Rangel, English teacher, John Kashner, Vistagram behavior coach, Carolyn Zell, Vistagram CTE, and early childhood paraprofessional, Tyrone Hall. Tyrone Hall, JROTC, Vistagram, Jeanette Jetton Rangel, CG English teacher, and the decline of position from Sandra Bird, CG guidance counselor, Maria Navarro, Vistagram math, and Maria Cuneo, Vistagram math.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins,
Yes.
Mr. Hennis,
Yes.
Okay, that puts us into number 3, study session. Reopening plan discussion.
Okay, President Hawkins, members of the governing board, and Mr. Lopez did just call and will probably be arriving during this presentation. But I wanted to take a chance to meet with all of you as our governing board and kind of share with you the work we've been doing for the last month or so, and to seek some insight from the board moving forward. So as we start to plan for reopening our school this year, what we did as a leadership team is we organized into teams. So we had 3 subcommittees that were created. One that focused on academics, one that focused on operational procedural things, and one that focused on students, family, and staff support. So from within that, as you can see here, these are the number of different people who were organized from the district cabinet, food services, communications, health and safety, technology, finance, human resources, transportation, facilities, and professional development. So a number of groups have worked collectively to try to gather information and look at different scenarios for our reopening this fall.
We turn the lights down just a little.
Does it make it easier to see with the lights down? You can turn them all the way up as far as I'm concerned. Okay. Does that work okay with the camera still?
No,
So, you need more lights?
Turn that one
just a
on.
bright light.
Turn that last one on. No. There you go. Does that help?
You need more?
Turn that there. Is that good?
Yeah, but if you have to see the camera.
Still can't see it.
We need more. Okay, we're gonna have to turn up the lights, Nancy, to get the.
Okay.
If you would like, you know what I will do?
That's okay.
Would you know, before I present any further, if you want, I could stop and email it directly to you, so you can look at it on the screen.
Why can't we turn these lights off?
Well, we have to record the meeting, and you can't, when you turn off the lights, the camera doesn't pick it up. Doesn't
It's a
pick up the
live
meeting.
feed for people to view, so.
Okay.
There's people watching this live right now.
I don't need to be recorded.
Anyway, so I'll do it, so in planning, in our planning consideration, we followed the National Institute of Excellence in Teaching, their scenarios and considerations. There was a list of a questionnaire and a list that we used, and we divided that amongst our subcommittees so that we could use that to start answering questions about how we reopen this next school year. So in doing so, one of the things we wanted to do is we wanted to survey our parents. We needed to survey our teachers, and when we say teacher surveys, that also means certified staff. And we also, we surveyed our classified staff. Now, unfortunately, that's typical in our district. These are the responses we've gotten so far, but we are continuing to seek responses as we speak to gather more. So we've had 925 parent surveys that have come in, 144 teacher surveys, and 30 classified surveys. And again, just trying to find out where people are, what are their major concerns with reopening, and what considerations do we need to make. So in doing so, one of the first things, well, I'll start with what we've learned from our parents thus far. So what we've learned from our parents, keeping in mind the school is currently scheduled to begin on August 3rd, are you planning to have your child attend school? So from those who responded, 617 said yes, they're planning, 49 said no, and 259 are still uncertain. So from the people, the 900 said, so there's some that are uncertain on whether they're comfortable coming back to school at this time. Moving on then, we asked the parents if, because one of the things we worked on with our online instruction is we were worked online, so not having internet access could be a big deal. In talking to our parents, what we've learned so far is that 859 of those who responded did have consistent, reliable internet at home. Only 66 did not. So that was a smaller proportion than we once thought. And so, more of our kids did have, or at least that responded, have internet. The next question that was the one that we really, because it played into how we reopened. And the question was, considering your family situation and your personal concerns about safety and health, if given the option, what learning model would you choose for your child next year? So the first one is obviously to attend school in person full-time, as we normally have. And 413 of our parents said they would be okay with that. The next model was a hybrid model. And that's sometime at school, sometime at home. And 369 said that's the model they would choose. And when we went to just participating online or remotely, 143 were interested in online. So if you look at those three models, overwhelmingly, the majority of our parents said, hey, we would be comfortable coming back in person or in person sometime versus just staying home and learning online. And so that's that. And again, we're continuing to gather information, but this is the information we got so far. Interesting enough, with those who are interested in sending their kids to school full-time or in a hybrid model, when we asked about transportation, this next data was a little bit interesting. When schools reopen, will your children ride a bus? 607 of the 900 said, no, they will not. And so I think what that says to us is while our parents may be comfortable somewhat or more comfortable sending them back to school sometime or in part way, they're not necessarily as comfortable putting them on a school bus right now. And so that'll be interesting to see how we open, what we do with buses and how buses run. Will we have buses, will we need as many routes? Will we have as many kids? More and more parents may choose to try to get their kids to and from school than to put them on a bus just because of the safety concerns, I think, with proximity on a bus. You can only spread kids. It's like being on an airplane. You can only spread kids out so much. So that's just what they have told us. And so, again, we're continuing to seek information. Next, then, we needed to talk to our staff. Where does our staff go? And with the information we know about our parents, how does that correlate to what our staff is? So when we went to our staff, one of the things with our teacher survey, we asked them if schools were allowed to reopen in the fall, how strongly would you support each of the following options? So we wanted to see where are our teachers in the options that we're potentially looking at. And if you look at the full-time, so if you look at the orange, the bright orange is strongly opposed, bright blue, the darkest blue is strongly support, and then everything else is in the middle. So if you look at our full-time return to regular school day and schedule, as we always did, not quite half, but an overwhelming majority of our staff strongly oppose that model. If you look at then the next model we talked about was a blended learning. Daily sessions, students attend in person certain days each week and complete assignments and activities and then learn online the rest of the days of the week. If you look at that, the dark blue and the light blue overwhelmingly show support for that model. And then the last one was return full-time to distance learning and education with learning based on grade level standards. And again, you look at that whole model, about a little more than half would be okay in that model. So our parents are telling us that they would be okay to come back to school in person or at least part-time in person in a hybrid. Our staff is telling us that they would be in favor of the hybrid model, and they're okay with online, but they still have some big concern with coming back as we once were with everybody in person. Moving on then, one of the things that we have to consider is, and I think we've talked about it as a board, what about those kids and those families? Welcome, John. What about those kids and those families who are just not willing to send their kids back to school? They're not willing to send them here because they don't want to risk health or for whatever reasons they're not willing. And one of the things that would be detrimental to our district, we don't want to lose our students. We certainly don't want to lose our students to other online entities like Primavera or some of those other things. So what are we going to do about that? So one of the things our state has done, knowing that a number of districts have been involved, is they've opened and extended the deadline for school districts to apply for an Arizona online instruction or an AOI. There's an ARS that goes along with that, and what that does is that allows a school district to be approved as an online charter and to develop online instructional systems to expand our learning opportunities for students throughout the state. So what that does is it allows us to become an official online school to where kids could just attend our school online, and just like any other online school that was out there, they would be attending our school. However, they would be following our curriculum, following our guidelines, and be receiving our diploma. The one thing that we need to keep in consideration, again, is that AOI funding for every student who is in an AOI, you do not get full ADM for those kids. You only get about 3/4 of the ADM you would get if they were in person. However, if they don't attend our school district and our district approved AOI, and they attend another online institution, we get 0 ADM for those kids. And so this is something that we've considered. So what we have done, and I'm working with Melanie, we will be submitting an application for AOI, hopefully by end of day tomorrow. And we will probably have approval back in the next 3 to 4 weeks. They've expanded upon their time frame, and they're moving around that. So that's something that we're looking to do because we don't want to lose students. We want to continue to educate our students.
How much of the benefits get there doing half and half?
The question.
Uh-huh.
So that would be completely separate. This would be somebody choosing, a student choosing that they don't want to attend any part or, a couple of days a week or anything else like that, but they want to attend strictly an online educational.
Correct. So they're saying we're not willing to come back to school even in a hybrid model where my kids come part-time. I am only comfortable learning from home in an online platform. So 2 things that happen. Number one, if you choose an AOI, then you have to already have internet. You have to have a working, viable internet at home and know that that's what you want to do, because we're not obligated as a district to provide internet for somebody who chooses an AOI. We are obligated to try to help our kids with internet for kids who are attending to us in person. So that would be a choice for them to do that.
So it would be supported by a teacher from the high school, depending upon what the curriculum was. We would establish the curriculum, and then we would have one of our teachers teaching this online class?
Correct. So while we're planning for the AOI, for those students who may choose it and pending approval, we would be taught by our teachers that are in district. We're not going to hire outside people to do it. We already have teachers that work in our district who would teach it. And we will do an application process for our teaching staff who are interested in teaching in this model. Number one, you have to have the correct teachers with the correct certification and content knowledge to teach in this model. And there's going to be a lot more work to this, because unlike how we finished the year last year, if you are in a district approved AOI, you've chosen that model for your children, you will be taking 6 classes a day, just as if you would if you were in person. So it's not one class here and there. You'll be taking a full 6-day coursework. You'll just be doing it online. And so we've got to work out some of the details. We may have some teachers who would teach fully online for us, and that's all they do. But we may have other teachers who teach in person for us and maybe teach a section or 2 online, depending on the content. But it's an opportunity that we could offer our kids so we don't lose kids that are not comfortable coming back.
So I guess the question I have is, if you have a respectable percentage of kids that are only interested in doing the online, it's only funded at 75% of ADM, right?
Right. Correct.
What could that, are there potential impacts on budget and salaries, et cetera?
Oh, absolutely there is. But I think if you look at the data right now, Jack, if you look at the data that we've gotten from our parents, right now, it's probably about 20% of the parents who've responded who are interested in this. All the other parents are telling us they would come back at least in a hybrid model. They would be comfortable coming back in a hybrid model where kids came half of the day and did online instruction half of the day. And I'll talk about that in just a minute on the hybrid model that we're proposing. And that would not be this curriculum. That would be completely different. But for this one, for application purposes, we already have licensure for our Edgenuity content. We have Edgenuity that we use for credit recovery. We have that whole Edgenuity program. We have every course that we teach, there's an Edgenuity course to match. So we would use Edgenuity for our AOI because we already own that licensure and we already own that. The other thing with AOI, we would still provide technology for the kids. They would have to have, though, their own working internet to be a part of that. We can't guarantee internet, but we can provide a device. And again, what we're looking at that is we're looking at the option of not losing that group of kids to another institution. We'd like to keep them within our district. We'd like them to graduate with our diploma. But, so that's the only reason for this would be to not lose those kids to another outside entity who will not come back to us even in a hybrid model. So we're just trying not to lose kids and providing them the best education we can so they still get our diploma.
So this may be too early. So the AOI doesn't apply to the hybrid?
No, it does not. And I'll talk about the hybrid model in just a minute. But I want you to know that we are applying, and I'll let you know as soon as we get that application back. We're assuming basically it looks like, because the state is basically saying as long as you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's, you're going to get approved. Everybody's going to get approved. Every district who's already applied before us has gotten approved. We were thinking about applying, and then we chose not to, and then all this happened, and it was too late to apply, so then they've extended the deadline. We've now applied. We will be applying officially by tomorrow, and as soon as we get that, I'll let you know. So again, this intent is only for those kids who are completely uncomfortable coming back to school in person, and we don't want them to go elsewhere. We'd like to continue to educate them.
Have there been other districts that have done this before?
The AOI? Oh yeah, they've already existed. In fact, Combs has an approved AOI. Coolidge has applied for an AOI. Their AOI, they applied 3 weeks ago. So they're going to get an AOI. I don't know, those are the two that are, and Maricopa has an AOI.
I was just wondering if there's a track record as far as how successful they've been.
I don't know that there's enough data yet to say that there's a track record, but the AOI option has been around for a little while, but it's got a lot more strict because, to be honest, ADE doesn't want the Primaveras of the world to exist. And so they're trying to limit it to and give kids an option to stay within their own school district and get an education in this format. So again, this is just a stopgap for us to have an opportunity to educate kids who are completely unwilling to come back to school. And so we're working at that. So, okay. So moving on, we have planned, there's 4 scenarios that we went through and we looked at. I'm going to talk to you about all the scenarios, but then I want to really focus on the scenario that I believe the data from our parents and our staff is telling us to do. So the first scenario we looked at is all students in physical buildings, opening up school exactly the way we opened up school a year ago. Everybody comes back, regular school day. There's some precautions you could put in there to maybe alter start and end times, maybe alter passing periods during the day so you don't have all the kids passing at one time. Some start and end times, there's some things you could do, but it still brings 1,800 kids or however many are willing to come back on campus in one day. That's not a hard one to plan for because we know how to do that. We've done it. There's some alternatives, so we've been looking at that. The other alternative we talked about is some students in physical buildings and some learning virtually, or a hybrid model. If you look at the data right now, that's the model that right now our parents would be leaning the most towards and our staff would be leaning the most towards. Where kids are here part-time and online or working remotely part-time or a hybrid.
50-50 or what would be the spread on that?
So let me go through all 4 models, Chuck, and then I'm going to get into great detail on that hybrid model because I think that's the model that we really are looking at. So the other one would be all virtual. And the one thing we've heard from our teachers, the one thing we've heard from our staff on virtual, and this kind of contradicts what I just told you with the AOI, but most parents don't want virtual. They don't want virtual the way we finished because their kids are not nearly as engaged as they need to. It's not the rigor that they wanted. They're having to fight their own children to get up and get on the computer and log in and do stuff. And so they're doing that. So the virtual one, again, a small portion of our parents have said, we would only are okay with virtual. And our staff is perfectly willing to teach virtual. And I will say, one thing I'm really proud of our teachers and our staff in this district is, they always say the old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. This pandemic has really increased our PLCs, our teachers meeting, talking, conversing, working together and planning and preparation. We've gone through the roof. I am so impressed with how strong our teacher teams have become during this time because they had to. That's how they were able to talk about what we were going to teach kids and how we were going to plan and how we we're going to deliver instruction. So our teachers we've asked them all to have the first 9 weeks of their curriculum on Blackboard in a digital format. So should we have to go completely online again, we're ready to do so in a much, much stronger fashion for teaching and learning and really giving kids some more lessons than just what we were doing. So they've worked really hard, and our teachers are willing to continue to learn that model. We know that. The other one would be intermittent virtual, which would mean you go to school on time in person for a little while, and then you take a break and you learn virtually for a little while. Then you go back online for a little while. And to me, that's kind of what we were forced into, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So as we looked at all these models, the one model that we believe is the model that I want that we should move forward would be that hybrid model. And so I want to get into some detail on that and kind of talk about that. So a couple protocols that we have to look at with the hybrid model or any model. Safety has got to be first and foremost. We've got to make sure that we're taking precautions to keep our staff safe. We're going to make sure we're taking precautions to keep our students safe. And we got to try to keep our community safe with what we're doing. Cleaning. Cleaning is a big deal right now. Everybody's hyper-vigilant with cleaning. I mean, washing your hands every time you touch anything, using hand sanitizers, touch surfaces, making sure we're cleaning. Here at the district office, we have protocols as we reopen, just wiping down pads of copy machines and different things, and wearing masks when we're in close proximity. So all those things have to come into consideration. We've worked with our transportation department to talk about transportation. We've learned what they're doing. They're putting protocols in place, just kind of like airliners are doing right now in airports, and pretty much bombing buses and wiping down buses and cleaning buses on a regular basis so things won't go on. We're working with food services. And I think regardless of how we open back up, food services for lunch on a school campus is going to look different than we've ever seen it. We don't have complete details from them, but what we're thinking is that you're going to see box lunch, the whole meal put together already, and here you go. Here's 3 choices, but here you go, here you go, here you go. Going down the line with a tray and having open food and all that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. While restaurants opened up, I haven't been to one myself, but I don't know how comfortable people are with buffets right at the moment. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But we're looking at that.
Buffets are a thing in the past.
Well, I think that's kind of where we're going. And the other one I think we really have to look at is visitors. We have the ability to limit the people who come on our campus on any given day. We don't have to allow people to just freely come on our campus. We can schedule people. We can be very strategic with who and how many people we let onto our campuses during the day, just to not add to the mix of what we're trying to do with teaching our kids and keeping our staff and our kids safe. So there's a lot of things we can do. Something I would have never thought about, my own daughter, who's currently a preschool teacher while she's going to college. Their preschool is open and they've been functioning for a while now. They no longer allow parents in the building. Parents drop off and pick up and check out their kids from the outside of the building so they don't have to come in. So there's all kinds of things, I think. So that's another protocol we got to look at, is how do we limit visitors on our campus so that we limit exposure for our staff and our students to anybody on the outside. So those are protocols that we have to go through. Other factors that we have to consider, and I'm going to go through these and then I want to really get into that hybrid model. Other high school districts. What I know right now is a couple of things that we're looking at. We know right now that Combs High School is going to open up in the last week in July with 2 options for their parents. They're going to open up with AOI, online, or in person. They're not offering the hybrid. There's no in between, AOI or in person. What I do know though, and I'll talk about this in a minute, they're also altering their week, and they're only going to have kids in person 4 days a week. Staff will be on campus 5 days a week, but kids will only come 4 days a week, and they're going to use the middle of the week on Wednesday to do all of their IEPs, 504s, PLCs, staff training, and they're going to take advantage of that middle of the week to thoroughly clean the campus, so you don't have more than, they'll be cleaning every day and every night, but having a really thorough cleaning in the middle of the week. And I'll talk about how they're doing that. Coolidge is going to open up with an AOI or in-person only. No hybrid model, no in between. It's going to be one or the other. Either come AOI or you come in person, you come AOI. And again, Coolidge is already a 4-day school week. That's already been an approved calendar, and that's what they're doing. So that's what they're doing. Maricopa is going to open up with an AOI and in person. They are not offering a hybrid model, and so they're going to. So all those 3 districts around is it's either you come in person or you go online. So that's what we're doing. As we look at Casa Grande Elementary, who we partner with the most and really try to match because we service those kids. Right now, they are looking at a delayed start to the school year. I talked to Joetta last week. She's meeting with her governing board, I believe, this week. Right now, they are proposing pushing the start of school to at least August the 10th at the earliest. So what they're looking for is they want 1 week of kids and teachers to be able to have teachers have one-on-one conferences with kids to really figure out where their kids are since last March and how they're going to develop a plan to help catch those kids up and move forward. So they're looking at a plan for not starting until August the 10th, and they're even considering up to 3 weeks later than that, or 2 weeks beyond that even. So they're going to consider a 1 week, kind of a week and a half, and a 2 week delayed start to the school year. Of course, they just wanted us to know that because we service parents and we service staff. One of the things we've talked about in our district as a potential delayed start, if we start in a hybrid model, which I'm going to talk about in depth here in just a second, if we start a hybrid model, and we believe that's probably the model that's best for our kids and for our community, and it gets us back to some more of a normalcy and kids on campus without overcrowded schools and all that, we too would benefit from not starting school on the 3rd and moving it to the 10th to give us about 8 solid days of professional development with our teachers to truly get them ready for this hybrid model and make sure that we're expectations and planning and training and everything's done so that when we hit the ground, we're ready to hit the ground running. And again, because what we've heard from our parents and what we've heard from our teachers is we don't want the school year to start with little bits of learning. We want to get back to what we did. We don't want gaps in the learning. We want to move them along as they're supposed to move along. So to do that, there's a couple of things you can look at. If you look at the statute for schools, what the statute says is as a school district, we must have 180 days of instruction or 120 instructional minutes. I think most school districts and most people look at that as you have to have both, 180 days and 720 minutes. If you look at the statute, and I can share the statute with you, it does not. It says or. When you look at or, that means we don't have to have 180 school days, as long as we give our kids 720 instructional hours. And so that's what we're looking at. That's how Combs is going to go to instruction 4 days a week for students and have a day for staff and for cleaning. That's kind of what Coolidge has been doing for years. And you learn this from a lot of our school districts up north who have to deal with snow days. When you have lots of snow days, you figure out in a hurry, you can't get 180 days in, and a lot of times you don't have to make up days. When we had Red for Ed, a lot of us didn't have to make up staff days because we had the 720 instructional minutes that we need. So we need to look at that. So those are some of the things that we can consider. So one of the things I want you as a board to consider is potentially allowing us to start to push the delay of school by 1 week if we go to a hybrid model, so that we have 8 days of solid professional development with our teachers to get them ready for the year. So let's talk about the hybrid model and kind of what we're planning on. What we're looking at with a hybrid model, and I do believe this is the best model for us because it gets kids back to campus. We want kids back to campus. We want teachers back to campus. Our staff wants to be back on campus, but we want to do it safely. So what we're looking at in the hybrid model is that we would take our entire staff, our campus, on both campuses, our student body, and we would split them completely in half by alphabet. So you take your freshman class and you have 427 freshmen, and by alphabet, you divide that in half. And then you divide the sophomore class in half, you divide the junior class in half, and you divide the senior class in half, okay? So now we're talking about 800 to 900 kids on campus on any given school day, not 1,800. What you do is, since we've already built our bell schedules for the day, and I'll just give you an example. We built the bell schedule for the day like we always did. Kids attend 6 classes, teachers teach 5 classes and have a prep period. What you do is you build that in. So now by splitting the kids, I'm a freshman English teacher and I teach 5 sections of freshman English. Every day when I come to school, in my classroom, let's say I have 34 kids on average in my class. So by dividing them in half, when I show up to class now, I have 17 kids sitting in front of me. I only have 17 kids. I teach every day, I teach all day long, but I only have 17 of my kids sitting in front of me. The other 17 kids are at home. They're following the exact same bell schedule. They've got their computer, and they're with me too. I have my whole class with me every day, but I only have half of them in front of me. The other half are online with me. So I can continue to teach every day as I always taught, but only half of them are sitting in front of me. Half of them are learning from me online. And so we can do that. We've talked about that, and we'll get into the details on that and how we can do that.
So would it be a live feed from the classroom while they're teaching?
Yep, live feed. And so that's how we get away from the AOI version and we get full ADM for these kids, and it's direct instruction. So colleges have been doing this for years. Colleges have been doing this for years, where a person's teaching a live class and there's a virtual class going on at the same time. So what we're doing is that doing it now, we start in that model. As I'm a teacher in a 900 square foot classroom, I only have 17 kids in there. Now I can socially distance those kids a little bit better. I can protect myself a little bit better as I'm doing it. But every day I have all of my kids with me, every single day. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't have my kids. Now let's talk about like biology. There's a lab today. Okay, so when I'm in the lab, when I'm there in person in the lab, I'm doing the hands-on lab. So the teacher may be teaching, and those of you who are online, this is what you're doing today, while the other kids are doing a live lab. If I'm in a CTE class, there may be other learning that you're doing, but today in the class, I'm hands-on. If this is what I'm doing today when I'm hands-on. So what we talked about in our hybrid model is that we would have the kids come to school 2 full days a week and then learn virtually 2 days a week. And again, we would like to take Wednesdays, use that to completely clean our campuses. We like to use it for IEP meetings, 504 meetings. We're having our freshman academy, so those will require team meetings. Have our team meetings on that day, and then thoroughly clean the classroom. We can do that with the 720 minutes, because what I've asked that we do is looking at a bell schedule. I want to create a bell schedule that requires 60-minute courses, so you have 60-minute classes, full hour classes, and then because for lunch purposes, again, to be safe for our staff, we would have 3 lunch periods for 30 minutes, so that you don't have more than a couple of hundred kids, 200, 250 kids eating lunch at any given time. Again, that allows us to spread kids out, spread out the campus, keep people a little safer as we do that. So that's kind of the model we're looking at. But by being able, the teacher to be able to do a direct instruction every day with the kids, nothing's missed. We don't have, it's like, if you don't do it that way, then you're like the teacher is teaching a lesson, then we teaching a lesson, and teaching a lesson.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, it does sound like, so there'd actually be 4 days of actual teaching per week, correct, for the kids?
Yes, but there also the expectation on Wednesday would be that teachers are, still communicating with kids, office hours for extra help, things like that.
The question I was asking, like, you had a kid who was struggling or needed to come in, or you were seeing somebody kind of get behind a little bit, you could actually do some remediation on that day? Is that
Correct.
possible?
Absolutely it is. Absolutely. That's what we're saying. If we had that day, we could use it for remediation. We could use it for our team meetings. We can use it for our PLC meetings. There's a lot of things we can do with that day to continue to help kids, who are struggling and helping them grow. So that's kind of what we're looking at, is doing that, doing a lot of different things with that day. And then that way too, that also, and again, if you look at costs, and that's good, we're already thinking that there's going to be fewer kids ride the bus. And especially if I'm a parent and I like to get my kids physically to school 2 days a week, I may choose to take them twice a week myself and never ride a bus. And so we may have some cost savings in what we don't have to spend in transportation. We certainly wouldn't have to run buses on a Wednesday, except for, and I take that back. Now remember, in this whole model, we also have to look at our ESS kids. Some of our functional kids, some of our special needs kids, they may have to come to school 5 days a week and just be in classrooms. They're already very small numbers, and just to service those kids' needs. So there's going to be some exceptions to this, because those kids have to be met. Those needs have to be met. And so they already only have 6 or 8 kids anyway that come every day. So we're going to have to look at, how we do that. But yeah, we're looking at a lot of different ways. And again, what I want is to have your blessing as a board with the plan we're going to move forward with. And now we got to bring a whole bunch of people. We got to bring teachers. We got classified staff. We've got, department leaders. We need to bring some people into the mix to truly operationalize our plan and make it work on a daily basis. There's things we're all going to have to work through and think about. But that's the model that we believe would be the best model for us to open. If you look at what our parents have said, you look at what our teachers have said to us, it puts fewer kids on a campus, but it gets them back to school. It also gives them direct instruction by the teacher every day. So if I'm not in person today, I still got to get up and I'm expected to follow the school bell schedule just as if I was there, because every hour I'm going to have a teacher teaching me. And so you're going to be involved in that instruction. Wherever you have classes, you'll take your 30-minute lunch break at home during that 30 minutes you would if you're on campus. So that's kind of the model that we've looked at. We believe it can happen. And one of the things as Chuck alluded to, we would look at cameras so we could live stream the teacher every day.
How would we monitor the attendance for those online?
So then they would be able to. So what we have, Chuck, on our computers with our Skype, teachers can set up teams.
Okay.
So as the kids log into their team, we literally can take attendance.
Okay.
So we could take attendance online or in person. So again, we would take attendance every day. We would take attendance.
I mean, how would we know that they're there for the whole 60 minutes?
Because when they log into the team, if they log back out, they're gone. If I jump on a Skype meeting with Dave and I log out, I'm gone. So if you drop off, then you're gone. You know what I mean? And so by the teacher being able to use the team, we can monitor so that the kid is in that class and they're participating in this.
What about with the anticipated less kids taking a bus and more kids being dropped off by their parents, the anticipated increased load in the gates at Union and District? That thing's a mess now. How do we anticipate that getting worse, or what?
Well, so one of the things that's a plan we have to work through, but one of the things we're thinking of, if we find that more parents, and again, as we register, one of the reasons we have to have a solid plan in place right now is we've got to get kids registered for this year. Mm-hmm. And when we register, we need to say, this is the model that we're opening with. Are you going to go AOI? Are you coming to the hybrid model? Which one are you doing? And are you going to ride a bus? Mm-hmm. And so we need to ask those questions. Well, we're anticipating if fewer buses need to run, then that makes drop off for parents a little easier at the schools. What happens is, you're always have parents, buses in one location, parents in another, and then when they start mixing is when you have a problem. So there are some things we're gonna have to work through, some things we're gonna have to work through to make that work better. But again, and time will tell. Parents who say, I'm not gonna put my kid on the bus, and then after a while, things are going along okay, and it's a major inconvenience to drive to school, all of a sudden they start riding the bus, you know what I mean? And so we're gonna have to, that's just one of those factors that we're gonna have to work through.
So what about that, for the kids not riding the bus, how many of those kids factor into the kids that are driving it, they're taking their car?
Well, and again, that's another thing we'll have to ask is when we register kids this year, so we can figure that out. Is
Okay.
are you gonna ride a bus, or do you have your own transportation, will you be getting yourself to school? Because that helps us too. When kids, all of us as parents, the day your kid can start driving themselves to practice and to school and everything else, it's a glorious day.
Do we
If
know
you
how
have-
many kids,
Yeah,
juniors and seniors, bring their cars? I mean, I know the
well,
parking lot looks very full out there, but
yeah.
what
I
is
don't,
the
I don't
count?
have, I don't have that data, I can get it from the school, but
Okay.
I do know from talking to Linda and Brian, there's nobody who wants to drive to school who's been denied parking.
Yeah,
There's been denied parking. Where I came from, in my former life, my school, I only had 850 parking spots. So it was an application first come, and there was many kids who didn't get the opportunity to drive to
Yeah.
school who could. At our schools, I don't know of anybody being denied parking who wanted to get it.
but we got plenty of parking spaces.
Yeah, we got the parking, it's
Yeah.
just, so that'll help our cause. So, that's kind of where we are, and so as we plan, and we still got work to do, but I need to be able to roll up our sleeves now and get after whatever model we're gonna open with, because I need to come back to you on July 7th with a formal plan for reopening, for your blessing and approval, so that we can communicate that to parents and we can start registering kids.
So what do we do with the kids that are falling behind where we put them in Edgenuity now?
We're still gonna keep Edgenuity going, and again, just like our Edgenuity, you'll come to the campus 2 days a week, and you'll be expected to be, because right now, our Edgenuity teachers, they actually monitor their classes on that Teams approach, so they can see the screen and what every kid is doing. So it was same with Edgenuity, we'll continue to keep that going for our kids. We'll continue to keep that going for our kids. The only thing that we do is half of them would come one day and it would happen all, and then they switch. And then again, like Jack had said, Wednesdays, we don't want to say Wednesdays kids are banned from school. No, but Wednesdays, we could use it to do all the stuff we need to do for our teachers. We could do it all the meetings we need to have for kids to make sure we're meeting the needs of our kids. We could use it for remediation. There's a lot of things we can do. And then the other factor that we need to look at is if school starts, and even in a hybrid model, right now, the plan is athletics will also start. So even if we go to school 4 days a week, we're still gonna have to have extracurricular activities on Wednesday afternoon. Freshman football will have games on Wednesday afternoon. You can't not have extracurriculars on Wednesday afternoon. So again, we're already talking about that. Maybe we don't want to have buses that run around and pick up kids at noon to bring them to school for football practice. But maybe we have activity buses afterwards, like we've always had, to get them back home, so parents can get there. So those are some considerations, because extracurriculars, unless this changes, our athletic teams that were given permission this week to start, with those following those, strict model. But we would have extracurriculars that happen. Marching band is going to happen. Dance and drama and all those things would start to happen. And so we would have to have extracurriculars every day after school. And we can manage that, just as we always have. So and I will leave it open for discussion questions. So what I am proposing to you is that we feel like the hybrid model is the best way to open for our kids. It's probably the safest way. It gets kids back to school in person, which they need. It gives kids direct instruction every day. If it's not in person, it's virtually. But it holds kids accountable to follow a bell schedule from home, even if they're not physically in the building. And then it allows us to take attendance, so we know that our kids aren't checking out on us and who is and where they are. And then it allows us to get full ADM for those kids, regardless of how we're doing, because we are delivering direct instruction every day. So that's the model that we would propose that you would give us a blessing to move forward. And again, still moving forward with having the AOI and getting that application for those parents and those kids who are absolutely will not send their kids to school for any reason. We wouldn't have to lose those kids to Primavera or another online institution. We continue to retain them.
Yeah, realistically, Steve, it's next year. Also, I'm still trying to gather in my mind how these other schools are going to have full day, full classrooms with people, maxed out. I mean, you have some freshman classrooms right now that you've got people stacked on top of each other, right?
Right. Well, I can't say that we, I have a pretty smart team, and I think, I can't speak for other people, but again, what we kind of had the attitude is we don't have to follow everybody else. It's okay to be innovative and do something a little differently that people haven't thought about. I don't know if everybody's thought about streaming live instruction every day so that you can count that as ADM and you're not losing out on the kids. We have. And so that's kind of where we are. I'm even prepared if we need to buy cameras for the room, for every room, so that we can do that. We've already looked at that. We may have to put another device in the room that supports the camera, just so that does that. But we have student devices. What we can figure it out.
Are there any other districts that kind of modeling? I'm not sure if I heard or not. Are there any other districts that are kind of modeling?
I'm not aware of anybody else in Pinal County that's looking this way. And I attend my Pinal County meetings with the superintendents every Wednesday. I'll ask again. I keep asking, and I haven't had anybody, at least in our close proximity, that's going to go hybrid. They're just saying, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go.
I'm not talking about local. I'm talking about the Valley or Tucson or anywhere.
I'm aware of, I don't know how exactly, but I'm aware there are some schools in northern Arizona that may be looking at a hybrid model. I don't know if they're planning exactly the way we are, but similar in concept, that kids would only come certain days, they'd only come a couple of days a week and learn online a couple of days a week. I don't know exactly all the details, but there are schools that are looking at a hybrid model. And that was one of those 4 models were rolled out to us from the National Institute as potential considerations. And you'll have school districts in other states that will open in a hybrid model. I always try to pay attention to what the districts around us are doing, just so I know what they're doing, So, but that's what we would like to do. We would like to get after it and put an operational plan in place so that I can come back to you at the board meeting in July and present a formal plan for your blessing and approval, so that we could go ahead and start registering kids for next year, because we'd like to get registered.
Is this something you're going to reevaluate every semester?
Oh, absolutely. Well, and again, our goal would to eventually have all of our kids back on campus every day like we've always done. And this model might allow us to ease our way back that way, because the more comfortable and the safer our campus is for our staff and our students, the more comfortable people feel, then, and again, being smart, then sooner or later, our goal would be to eventually be back. And even if we had to run this model for an entire year, at least we would have that data now to see how effective we were and what we could do to modify it for the year forward. Something, it wouldn't be a terrible.
Is there any way,
All right, so you're just looking basically kind of for our blessing to go forward today at this point, and then you're going to flesh out more. I mean, I guess we could have another work session sometime in between if you wanted to do like an update to us on what's going on, as opposed to waiting until the board meeting.
Oh, absolutely. Because when I came to the board meeting, I want to make sure I had a plan that I knew you were going to approve. So, okay.
I think that'd be great if we could have another one in between now and the board meeting, just so that just kind of get up to kind of keep us in the loop of how things are going and progressing, and see what the kind of the sniff test in the country is, how things are in the state, and how other schools are thinking about considering opening also.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's unfortunate because you look at this COVID, you go back to New York and the East Coast, where all those schools don't start until September. So they've got a whole nother month to wait on how they open. And so So I guess, so Chuck had a question real quick, though. Go ahead, Chuck.
So looking at the AOI model, I'm not comfortable with total online. I mean, I can see where some people might like it, but I'm just wondering if there's a way that we could use the AOI model and bring those kids back to campus, I don't know, once a week or twice a month or something,
Right.
just to bring them here and get them
Right.
connected.
Well,
Have you given that any consideration?
we have, but it says when you have an AOI,
It's
you're
completely online.
you're either all
Okay.
in, you're all in online,
rules-
or you're in person.
The rules for that.
There's
okay.
rules for that. But what I'm hoping though, Chuck, here's the thing is, if we have an AOI, we still have to allow our kids in the AOI to
Okay,
participate in athletics or band or those things. If they want to, we need to, and we will. So even if I choose to only learn online, if I want to come back and be on the football team, we have to allow that to happen.
can those kids in AOI, can they switch over
Yes.
to the hybrid?
Yes, so at any point in time, if all of a sudden they would say, you know what, I'd like to get out of this model,
Okay,
then we could, just like we can move them from that model to this model.
okay,
What I'm hoping is, and again, I know everybody's anxiously waiting to know, and this has not been easy. We've worked hard for the last month just to get to this point. And I now need to get an approved plan, because until our parents know what we're doing
Mhm.
and how we're doing it, what I'm hoping is that we can show them in a hybrid model, hey, this might be okay. It might not be, because we would just assume kids come into the hybrid model, and then we have very few kids do AOI. Now, our preference would be the hybrid. But we don't some parents, their kids may have, immune deficiencies, health issues, that they are just flat not comfortable sending them into a public school, and they're gonna keep them home. And so we don't wanna lose those kids either.
So one more question, can we limit the number of kids that go into the AOI model?
Shut down school.
We could, because it's gonna be the number of kids that go in AOI, this is gonna determine how many teachers I need to teach in that format.
Okay,
So we could limit it, but
Okay.
here's the thing, if we limit it and they say, okay, I'm going to Primavera, then we just lost the kid.
okay.
So,
So out of that survey you got, you said it was about 20%, so how many kids was that?
well, the 934 parents, let's assume they all have one
950.
kid.
Any kids?
So, yeah, so 69 kids,
Okay.
69, 70 kids, something
Okay.
like that. So, but again, as they said online, you have to remember, some of our parents are thinking how we finish the year.
Mhm.
And that is not anywhere remotely what we're planning on delivering. If we're gonna deliver online instruction this year, it's gonna be full-fledged, 6 periods a day education. It's not gonna be a lesson a week and, just very mild learning.
So I'm sorry, there's a lot of questions here,
That's why we're here.
but so you get everybody enrolled into this either or program, and you've got kids, you got a certain number of kids in the AOI, and you got the rest of them in our hybrid model. Are we gonna limit them? Well, next week I wanna switch over to the hybrid model, or I wanna switch, how are we gonna handle that?
I think what we would probably do is like we handle our open enrollments. Since I've been here, when our kids want to switch from the two schools.
Okay,
You do it at a clean break, so you do it at the end of a 9-week period.
okay,
So, yes, you do it at clean way semester, either at 9 weeks at the earliest, semester or semester. You have clean
Okay.
breaks in which you allow the
okay.
switch. Because
That sounds
you can't just, oh, today I don't like it.
Hardship issue.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we can't plan, we can't staff, but this keeps, number one, we've already built master schedules. We don't have to go back and rebuild our master schedules, they're done. We just now need to split the alphabet. So, and then the other consideration we'll do, siblings. And we have so many families that are mixed, they're mixed households now, or they're joint families. Siblings, if I'm a freshman and I have a junior brother and our alpha split puts us on 2 different days in person, we'll make that change. We'll allow siblings to come on the same day just to make it convenient for parents. So we'll have some flexibility there where we can make it convenient for households so that they can all be there at the same time, or even siblings if they're a household, we'll make exceptions for households to come on the same days, so we don't inconvenience parents to have to
Okay.
come every day for one kid or the other. So that's what we're
The
thinking.
other question I have is, the elementary school is gonna delay the start of school? Consider,
They're right now, from what I talked to Joetta, the earliest they'll start is the 10th. They're looking at another date, I think 3 days after that, like the 12th or 13th. And then they're also looking at the potential of not starting till the 17th. I get concerned.
why would the high school do the same?
We could, but if we do, it's gonna put us up against the wall well, first of all, here's what is gonna happen. If we start beyond the 10th, Jack, we won't end first semester before winter break. If we push it, and depending on how, again, looking at the 720 hours, that's my next task, is to take our calendar and break it down into the 720 instructional minutes and see what that looks like. Because we may have to potentially push second semester or the end of first semester beyond winter break if we start too much later. I'm a proponent with your blessing, and again, because you approved the calendar, you'd have to approve the late start. I'm a proponent of starting on the 10th because that would give us 8 days of professional development with our staff.
Yeah, I know,
Eight,
you know, the whole deal about getting out by Memorial Day, stuff like that, I think it's kind of a load.
well, yeah, I don't care if we go till later May of the school year. It's just that if you can't have finals before December, that does have its ramifications on kids when they go away for 2 weeks and then come back and try to recall everything. Not that it can't be done. I had to do it in high school. We had to do it. So, but I'm saying, we would still like to try to end first semester before winter break. So, and I don't know that Joetta, what they're saying, I think it's safe to say they won't start school before the 10th. And I would like to mirror that with your blessing, but I don't know that they're going to really truly push it beyond that or not. They're going to have a work study session with their board to look at the potential. So, Joe has a question.
All right, well, I tell you what, I think go forward and have us with another work session here, and, as you flesh this out a little bit more, so that we don't have, that we have this meeting and then the board meeting and have to make a decision.
No, I'd like to I appreciate that. I'd like to have you all together to give you another presentation before the board meeting. So,
That'd be better. I appreciate that.
all right, Joe had a question.
Actually, I have more than one.
Go ahead, Joe. The floor is yours.
Human nature being what it is, do you have a backup plan for these students that are going to be at home for 3 hours and they're going to check out because that's what's going to happen?
Okay.
What kind of a backup plan do you have for that so that we get those kids back on? Because I got a feeling these particular students, and they may not be that many, are going to have to be back in the classroom full time.
Yeah. Well, I think, Joe, our backup plan is, unlike when we were, is we're going to take attendance every day and grades will count. If you're going to pass the class, you got to participate in the class. You know what I mean? So if we're live streaming the kids in, and the teachers will actually have a way to interact with the kids at home, right, while they're interacting with the kids in the classroom. So I think that's the accountability piece, is holding them accountable for attendance and holding them accountable for grades, because you will be required, it's not, if you don't, just like, kids to call in sick. Whether I'm in person or home, if I call out sick for the day, I'm out sick for the day, and we got to play catch up with that kid. But I think,
Those kids, correct, those kids though are still required to be they're not physically in the classroom that day, but they're still, sitting in a seat at the school, but they're still required to be sitting in a seat in front of their laptop,
right.
virtually, a 10-day off.
No, they'll be logged in and expect to follow the same bell schedule from home. So, but again, if somebody's not over their shoulder and they kind of check out and don't do it, or they're watching TV on the side, we're going to, that's going to come down. We're going to need parents to help us. And again, we're going to have to combat that. But, that's what we're going to do with that. Accountability through grades and attendance.
The 17 students you talked about that are going to be in the classroom, the other 17 at home, is that going to be on a rotation basis, or is it going to be the same 17 students every 4 days?
No, so what we would do is, like we split the alpha spec. So my days at school are Mondays and Thursdays. Monday and Thursday, I'm physically in person. Tuesday and Friday, I'm learning virtually. Then the other half that's home, we'll do the opposite. So that way, if you look at our bell schedule, if we do that, if I already have 36 kids scheduled in this class and I split them in half, now we don't have to rebuild our master schedule in any way, shape, or form. We just know who's coming and going. So we've already done all that work. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's just half the kids are coming. And again, it's not going to be perfect science. We like to divide it right down the middle, but we're not cutting any kids in half. So it'll have to be as close to that as we can.
And then finally, on the CTE program, on the kids, if let's say, for instance, they're enrolled in the automotive program, and you can, I don't know what your count is right now, how many you have enrolled for that, but is the student available, or is the student able to be able to come in every day of that week because they're going to be out in the shop learning as far as participating hands-on?
So, well, I'm going to work with Steve because the kids that are in this model still will be able to get their industry standard. And what I'm thinking is with art, with ROTC, with anything that's the day you're in person, that's your full-on hand. You know, like sometimes they'll lecture for a little while and then they'll go in the shop. But I think we just got a plan to where every time you are in person, that's when you're doing the hands-on. All the instructional stuff, you know what I mean? If we can look at some of that, we can, so we're going to have to balance that. So that perfect lecture at the same time that you might have in an English class or social class may be a little different in a CTE class. And maybe then when you're online.
Realistically,
yeah,
it's not going to be the same for the near term until this thing kind of works, sorts its way out, and when there's a vaccine, where we figure out exactly what is transpiring. I mean, it's just not going to look the same.
Well, and we all have to consider that at any given time, if something was to take a turn for the worse and people started to get sick again, we could get shut down by the state and have to go right back to all online again. But at least if that's the case, having an AOI and other things in place will be a whole lot more prepared now than we ever were in the past. So, but anyway, so did you have any other questions, Joe?
No, that's it for that.
Okay. Well, so and with your blessing, two things that I would like to move forward with, and again, you're going to have to officially approve it. Number one, I'd like to look at potentially starting the school year on the 10th and not on the 3rd, giving us the extra 8 days to work with our staff. And number two, I'd like to move forward with a hybrid model and where we can make this more operational. And maybe, I have to look at my calendar, we'll see here, maybe, and I, you know what, other people, other directors are watching this, and I was clarified, because you were asked the question. If kids go AOI, we've already decided that. See, I'm not a part of all these meetings. When we decided kids go AOI or in person, you can't change until the semester. So at the semester, we'll change them. Otherwise, because when I get in an online class, there's not necessarily a clean break, because there's not like a semester break. Until I finish that class, I'm not finished with that class. You know what I mean? So it would only be a change at the semester. So what I'm looking at is, so it's the 23rd. So really, and then we have 4th of July week.
So we're only in for 3 days.
Yeah, so that's the only problem.
Pretty close.
I don't know how, well, you know what, I'm thinking, maybe if nothing else, maybe on the 1st, and if you're all willing, even if you couldn't come in person, even if I did it virtually through Skype, I could at least give you all an update on July 1st, kind of where we are, where we lie, just so I could answer any more questions before because otherwise we're not going to have much time to come back to you before the 7th. And I'll just tell you right now, I'm only taking one vacation day this entire summer, and it's going to be the 6th was the only day I was planning on being off this whole summer. So
That's good.
But even if I could Skype all of you at some time on the 1st, I could give you an all update. I could certainly, answer questions and give you more of an update on the plan before we just throw it at you, on the 7th. So, but anyway, so I guess I'll ask you if I have your blessing to move forward with those two things, looking at potentially starting on the 10th and moving forward the hybrid model. And if I do, then we're going to get after it tomorrow. We're going to start getting after this. So
All the alternatives out there, this sounds like
Go forward.
a good one.
okay, so I have Jack. You're okay, Joe, Nancy,
Yeah.
Check, you be okay? Okay, then we'll get after it. We're rolling up our sleeves. I've already got meetings set for this afternoon and tomorrow, so we're gonna get after this. I'll get with Mary. We'll work out probably easier virtual, but I'll plan on setting up a meeting with the four of you on the 1st to give you the latest update on where we are.
Is this time good for everybody? Noonish? Yeah.
You tell me, or if you want to come in person, I'll meet with you in person, whatever, I'm gonna be here on the 1st, so so we'll set up a meeting, we'll give you the choice, either be here virtually or in
I
person,
do either one.
and I'll give you guys an update again.
I'm
on
already
where we
home
are.
for lunch, so.
We'll set up as a Skype, and then you guys can just let me know if you're gonna be here, and if
Yeah.
you're not, then you can just jump on the Skype.
Yeah, we'll do Skype, that way you can
We gotta
hear
do
me.
it on the side there, we gotta do it on the side, right?
Okay, all right, well, thank you all for listening. I think this is a good plan, and we want our kids to come back. We
No, it's
really
good
want
plan.
our kids back,
Thank you.
so,
Yeah.
all right,
For your work.
thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye, Jack.
Bye-bye, Mary, thanks.
And you know what,
No, this was.
I sent it to
we
Jack,
included it in the
but
other
that
one, so
PowerPoint I
they
just
just go
presented,
right
I'll
into
email it to the other three, so you all have it, the preliminary email.
Good.
Doing all that.
I'm serious. One of the reasons I said